Mtgnerdgirl is proudly sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com. When you use promo code MNG5 at checkout, you'll receive a free exclusive Mtgnerdgirl vampire token, as well as 5% off your entire order. Show your support for her content and get this free bonus by using the code MNG5. Only at CoolStuffInc.com. Cool stuff in stock.
Welcome back, guys. We are here for our Wilds of Eldrain limited set review, and today Yanks is on the call, and we're going to be going over every single black card and giving it a rating between 0 and 5 based on how we think it will perform in the average deck. So that means high synergy cards will be a little bit docked just because, you know, they don't really shine unless they really have a home in a high synergy deck. If you guys missed our introduction to Wilds of Eldrain, I would make sure to check that one out first, because we went over all old and new and returning mechanics, as well as the different draftable archetypes, and we do use those things as part of our ratings. So if you guys want to check a lot of that stuff out about Eldraine, Yanks, you ready to dive into black?
Absolutely.
All right, let's go ahead and start with Ashyak Reaper, 4 mana for a 3/3 nightmare that says whenever an enchantment you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. Now, the first thing I want to note about this card is it's really, really important to note that your rolls, not only are they enchantments, they're tokens, so they do enter the graveyard. So that's going to make this Ashyak Reaper way, way better than you might think normally.
Yeah, anytime you replace one of your own rolls and the old one gets state-based effects gets sent to the graveyard, you draw a card.
Or anytime a creature with a roll dies, you're going to get that trigger. So this is actually going to be quite massive. I think for a 4 mana 3/3, this is very, very high. I'm going to give this a 3/5.
Yeah, I think so as well. It works great with Bargain, which haven't looked all the way ahead, but Bargain sounds like a black mechanic, so I'm going to guess we're going to see a decent amount of it here.
All right, moving on. Ashyak Wicked Manipulator, 5 mana for a 5 loyalty planeswalker. This is if you would pay life while your library has at least that many cards in it, exile that many cards from the top of your library instead. Okay, check. Seems like a constructed thing, but we'll reserve judgment. For +1, look at the top 2 cards of your library, exile one of them, and put the other into your hand. -2, create 2 1/1 black nightmare creature tokens with at the beginning of combat on your turn. If a card was put into exile this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So it fuels itself over time as you -2 first and then +1. Great. And then for its -7, target player exiles the top X cards of their library, where X is the total mana value of cards you own in exile. So that counts as mill, right? So I get a cookie?
for those purposes, yes.
Excellent. So if you're new to the channel, every time I mill someone in limited, especially when it's not like a really truly supported mechanic, then I get a cookie from Crumble, which is my favorite. Yeah, this is an absolute bomb, right? Like, so you -2, it still has 3 loyalty. That 5 loyalty is awfully high for a planeswalker. And then you plus, and they all become 2/2s. And then you still get card advantage added to your hand from there. This seems fantastic. It's a little bit of a slow burn, but it will eventually just kill your opponents if given the chance.
Yeah, also, those creatures retain that ability even if Ashyak dies, and that ability triggers anytime you cast an adventure, and it resolves because it goes into exile.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, this card's great.
So I'm just going to go ahead and just give this a straight up 5. I mean, It is not as ETB impactful as some planeswalkers we see, but I think that this is one of the highest value generating and will be one of the heavy hitting cards that we've seen in the set so far.
Yeah, it's not crazy expensive. It protects itself. It generates card advantage. It comes in at a high loyalty. It's very hard to deal with.
All right, back for seconds. 3 mana for a sorcery that says Bargain. Return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. If the spell was Bargain, you may put one of those cards with 4 mana or less onto the battlefield instead of putting it into your hand. And this is shared with this is the food mechanic. So I think bargain will be even easier in this color pair than not color pair, but color than we've seen in anything else, because there will be cards here that are making food in addition to rolls and anything else.
Yeah. 3 mana, just getting back 2 creatures from your graveyard is ignoring everything else in this card is very good. Now,
yep.
If you bargain it, you get one of them on the battlefield. That sounds great.
Yep. And there's oftentimes you might just want things that are higher than 4 CMC, just super late in the game. You want your 2 biggest things, and it might not be relevant, but I'm still fine with just paying 3 for that.
Yeah, if you're doing it later in the game, if there's decent chance what you get back, you can still cast. The value of this is that sometimes if you're spending 3 mana on a card like this, you don't have a play that turn. Yeah. And this will let you make a play still.
These are also the kind of cards you kind of want to play in moderation, though, just because you don't want to have too many of them in your hand and not drawing creatures. So I think this is an auto-include as like a 1 of in every deck, and maybe I'll play 2, but I'm like not likely to ever play 3. So agreed. I'm going to give this a 2. Well, I'm going to give it a 3.
Yeah, I have it as a 3.
All right. We have Barrow Naughty. Barrow Naughty. 2 mana for a 1/3 flying fairy. That does not look like a fairy. It has lifelink as long as you control another fairy. You can pay 3. It gets +1/+0 until end of turn, and you can dump as much mana into that as you would like. It is creepy, but it's a fine rate. 1/3 flyer for 2. I'm already sold. The rest of it is extra. I think this is a solid 3.
Yeah, it harkens back to Lorwyn block when fairies were in blue-black for the most part. So you're going to get some of these kind of evil-looking fairies. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with this card. I like it as a 3 as well.
Awesome. All right. Beseech the Mirror. 4 mana for a sorcery with bargain. Hard to cast. Black. Search your library for... What?
Nothing.
Search your library for a card, exile it face down, then a shuffle. If the spell was bargained, you may cast the exiled spell without paying its mana cost if the spell's mana value is 4 or less. Put the exiled card into your hand if it wasn't cast this way. It doesn't say reveal, it just says exile. So this is a very expensive tutor that is not a reveal tutor, but you can potentially just cast it, which is neat.
Yeah, I don't think this is a very good card in Limited. I think it's copies 5 through 8 of Shieldred and Standard and Pioneer, and 5 through 8 of the One Ring in Modern. But
yes.
In Limited, there's not much that I'm willing to pay an extra 4 mana for.
And there's always a chance that you play or draw that spell first, right? Like if there is a thing, right? You have a Shieldred-esque card, then this is just dead most of the time. The tax on tutor cards in Limited are oftentimes not worth it. You have to have 2 or 3 big bombs that win games on their own to make this a 4th copy.
Not to mention that this is just not easy to cast. Triple black.
And this, unlike the other Eldraine, doesn't have any real support for monocolor decks. So I think I'm going to give this just a 1. I'm not super interested in it.
Agreed. I've got it as a 1. If you've got 2 to 3 bombs and you can easily cast triple black, fine. Like maybe this card.
Not happening, probably. Bitter Blossom reprint. Beautiful alternate art. I'm very excited to try to find this. 2 mana for a fairy enchantment. It says at the beginning of your upkeep, lose 1 life and create a 1/1 fairy rogue with flying. So this is a very big, mass, crazy. I don't know. I don't think I've played Limited where Bitter Blossom was in the format. How is it usually played?
I never played like Lorwyn Block Limited when it was around. I've definitely had it in Modern Masters Limited, where it's absurd.
Okay.
And
that's relevant.
Pretty good, and it's still pretty good in Vintage Cube, and Vintage Cube is pretty powerful. Not great there, but it's also feeding weird sacrifice shenanigans there. So, Modern Masters draft, it was first pick bomb, and you land this on turn 2. It's very hard to beat this card.
It's another slow build, and it's an enchantment, so it won't be the easiest thing for your opponents to remove. So I'm inclined to give it a nice little boost. It is a bit slow and doesn't impact the board super heavily the turn it comes into play, so I'm going to say it's a 4/5.
I think I'll agree with a 4/5 just because it's not a good card if you're behind. Especially if you're behind on life.
Yeah, that makes it a little awkward for sure. But black has some food, so I mean,
yes.
Maybe a little less punishing in this set than others.
Yeah, any sort of board stalling situation or early in the game, this card is one of the best cards in the set.
All right.
But it does have a downside.
Candy Grapple, 2 mana for an instant with Bargain. Target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. If it was bargained, it gets -5/-5. Instant speed -3/-3 for 2 mana. I'm already sold. The rest of it is just icing, or I should say caramel. I'm going to give this a 4. This is premium removal.
I just love that candy apple is eating him.
It's a Candy Grapple.
Yeah, this is a 4, and the art's kind of amazing.
Yeah, and it's got extra caramel on it. It's amazing. I like it. I'm so excited for Eldraine. God, I love this world so much. I love this plane. All right, Conceited Witch, 3 mana for a human warlock with adventure. You can pay 1 at sorcery speed, and you can, the price of beauty, create a Wicked Roll token attached to target creature you control. And then for 3 mana, you get a 2/3 with Menace. So why would you want to create a Wicked Roll on a creature you control? For enchantment ETBs, for sacrifice bargain options?
Well, Wicked is a good one.
Oh, Wicked. I thought it was Cursed. When I read Wicked, but in my head I thought Cursed. Wicked is a good one. Never mind.
Wicked is
way better.
+1/+1, and when it goes to the graveyard, your opponents lose a life.
Yes. For some reason, when I read it, I read Cursed in my brain. Seems good. 2/3 with Menace is already fine for 3 mana, so then getting the bonus Wicked Roll when so many things, we're getting a lot of bargains so far in this color, so I think this is great.
Yeah, I mean, this card is very good. Value on both sides. Well, value on the sorcery. The creature itself is just kind of on par.
Yeah. I like the keyword. I'll give it a little extra bonus. I think this is a solid 3 for me. I like the rolls.
I've got it as a 2/5, but it's definitely a 5 for art and concept with the mirror and the clearly Snow White references. You got the apples in the art, and then the flavor text of "She wasn't much for self-reflection."
Mm-hmm. I like that the art shows the witch actually going shh, even though she's not making that pose.
Yeah,
it's not just showing the true reflection. It's actually a totally different character, which is neat. All right. Dark Tutelage, 3 mana for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. You lose life equal to its mana value. That seems like a really sweet, certainly a card I want a lot of in Commander.
It's a very dangerous for Phyrexian Arena.
Yes. You have to have a low CMC, and you have to have some life gain.
Yeah, I would say Dark Confidant, but Dark Confidant pretty easily dies. This will be much harder to have go away, although you do have Bargain.
Yeah. Oh, sure, you could bargain this away. We saw one Imp Fairy, crazy-looking thing with lifelink that you could also pump. So, maybe if you have a couple of those, you can help mitigate some of this. I think I would want a hefty amount of life gain before I was comfortable putting this in my deck.
Yeah, there's too often it's just a dead card.
Yeah. Or if you're behind, or it doesn't, you're right. So rating wise, I'm going to give it a 1/5.
Yeah, I think so too. And there are decks you'll know that you can pay the cost associated with this, and then you'll get it probably pretty late.
All right, moving on to Dream Spoilers. 4 mana for a 2/2 flying fairy warlock. Whenever you cast a spell during an opponent's turn, put up to one target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1 till end of turn. I love these kinds of things. Fairies actively want to be playing things on your opponent's turn. It makes gameplay very interesting for limited when you can make stuff like this work. There was a high number of bounce spells in the format. Adventures are oftentimes instant speed spells. This is pretty cool. I'm into this.
Yeah, this is slotting into that blue-black kind of controlling fairies archetype, holding up card draw and removal spells and, flash fairies, counter spells, and just, getting some bonuses along the way. I really like this card.
Yeah, rating-wise, if you have to have the synergy, you have to have the instant speed spells to make this worth it, because it is kind of a low-rated power and toughness for the mana cost. So I'm going to give it an average of a 2-5.
Yeah, it's going to be way better than that in blue-black, but otherwise, yeah, it's probably around a 2-5.
Yeah. Ego Drain, 1 mana for a sorcery. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. If you don't control a fairy, exile a card from your hand. So this seems really good if you have fairies and not good if you don't.
Yeah, if you don't have fairies, you're 2-for-1ing yourself. If you do, you get a better Thoughtseize, but not on turn 1, which is one of the best values of Thoughtseize.
But not in limited.
True, although you still want to play them early because like every discard spell, it suffers from late game. Your opponents have no cards.
Late game, yes, but I actively like Thoughtseize in these effects in limited. I like on turn 2 and 3 and 4 a little bit more than I actually like them on turn 1, because the important spells that you want to hit, they can't cast on turn 2 and 3 anyway. And it just gives you 2 more looks, basically, from their draw steps. So I'm far more inclined to play this with a 2-drop on turn 3.
Yeah. Those points all make sense. I think I tend to find a lot of times if I don't cast something like this on 1, it just sits in my hand for too long because I'm curving out or I want to keep up, other instant speed spells.
Fair enough. Rating-wise, I think this is not playable in a non-fairy deck, so I'm just going to give it a 1.
Yeah, agreed.
And it has to be deep fairies, not just Dimir has some fairies.
No, you need a lot.
The End, 4 mana for an instant speed. Costs 2 less if your life is 5 or less. Exile target creature or planeswalker. Search its controller's library, graveyard, hand, and for any cards with the same name as the exiled permanent, then shuffle, then draw cards for each exiled card from their hand this way. So it's like a surgical extraction. I'm never playing this in limited.
No, you are. It's basic. It's a 4-mana removal spell.
Oh,
the first part is just it's a 4 or 2-mana removal spell. The rest of it's just who cares.
For some reason, I thought we were only looking at their hand and doing the thing.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. This is great.
Yeah.
It was a lot of text, so I was just look at their hand, look at their graveyard, remove a card that has duplicates. Okay, no, don't care. Yeah. You're right. We don't care about any of that. We just care that this says exile a creature, and it could just stop there. It does give you the information in their hand, which is a nice bonus. Don't get me wrong. I got dizzy with all the text.
You get to see their hand. You get to see what's in their deck. All relevant information.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. This is a really cool removal spell. I just forgot that it said the first 3 words. So this is we normally kind of put the ceiling on premium removal at 4, but because of all the extra information and all of that kind of stuff, I'm gonna bump it. I'm gonna say 4 or 5. I think having perfect information of your opponent's hand and deck can lead to game wins.
Yeah, I think I'm on board for that. The nice little bonus if you're behind and you might really need to be able to double spell, so it being cheaper can help there too.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to let you do the next 2 before I lose my voice.
Next up is Adriennes Whisper. 3 and a black for a sorcery. Target opponent discards 2 cards. Create a Wicked Roll token attached up to 1 target creature you control. So this is one of these roll cards I'm not a huge fan of. Mind Drought is sometimes playable anyway, so I think this card is okay, but I don't really want to pay another mana just to get the Wicked Roll here.
Yeah, so the thing about these is that we've been seeing them in most sets now at 4 mana that do a bonus thing. And we're not very high on them, but in most of the sets that we've seen them, they've played way higher than we've expected. And I think that this one will do the same. I think these rolls are going to be super cool. super valuable. There's lots of like, enchantment ETB or graveyard stuffs, bargain stuffs. I think I'm happy to play this as a one of in most decks if it has room. I'm going to give it a 2.
Yeah, I've got it as a 2 as well. I think it's definitely playable.
But before I was like making these sorts of spells at like a 1/5, but I think that time is just gone.
Next up is Fairy Dream Thief. We got a 1-mana Fairy Warlock. It flies. When it enters the battlefield, surveil 1. And you can pay 2 and a black to exile this from your graveyard, and you draw a card and lose a life. Seems good to me.
Yeah.
1-mana, 1/1 flyer. Okay, fine on its own, but get some card selection. You can fill your graveyard if that is relevant to you, and if you trade this off even for a token, you still get to replace itself later.
Yeah, the other thing too is that it's going to enable a lot of the fairy synergies that we're seeing. Not all of them are things that we're super excited to be playing, but like, that other 1/3 fairy that if you have fairies, it does more stuff. So I think that there will just be enough random things throughout a Dimir deck that just wants you to have a 1-drop fairy. So I think this is a solid card. I'm going to give it a 2/5.
Yeah, I've got it as a 2/5 as well.
Fairy Fencing. X and a black, target creature gets -X/-X until end of turn. That creature gets an additional -3/-3 until end of turn if you control a fairy as you cast this spell. Ooh, I like as you cast.
Yep.
That's an interesting added text.
I like that wording.
Wow. Well, I mean, I actively am going to hate that wording all set, I'm sure. But no, I think that's really interesting. It is just extra text, like X and a black for -X/-X. I'm already saying this is a 4. The fairy bit is just a bonus that, most of the time might not be relevant.
No, I think the place it's most relevant is it gives you a chance to double spell with this if you have fairies.
Yeah.
To kill a 4/4 for 2 mana and then still be able to play something.
Absolutely. I think that is very good value early game as well. Curving out in that 4 to 5 drop area would be really, really nice. Rating wise, I think this is Black's premium removal. We're going to give it a 4.
Yep.
Feed the Cauldron, 4 mana for an instant, destroy target creature with mana value 3 or less. If it is your turn, create a food token. So you get a bonus if you cast it on your turn, which I love. And I want food tokens.
Yeah, it's an interesting, kind of thought puzzle when you have this card. Like, do you want to try to wait and maybe bait out a combat trick or something? Or do you want to take the food token on your turn?
Yeah. It's going to case by case basis. But I think this is really good. I always love running these. I actually think that this is, I don't want to give it a 4 because, it is a little bit more situational than the other premium removals we've seen. But honestly, I play these like they are 4s. You want a few, you're not willing to play 6 of them like you are some of the removals, but it's a very good removal. So I'll say it's a 3/5.
Yep, I like it a 3/5.
Fell Horseman, 4 mana for a 3/3 with Adventure. Deathly Ride for 2 mana, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. And then it itself says when it dies, put it on the bottom of its owner's library. I like card advantage.
Yeah. You're kind of getting both halves a little bit more expensive than you want, but that's okay because it's only cost you 1 piece of cardboard. So
yeah, I'm fine. I think this is a great card I'm never going to cut. I'm going to call it a 3.
Yeah, I like it as a 3 as well.
Grave Pact. Colorless black. Whenever a creature you control dies, each other player sacrifices a creature. It's a cool card. You have to have a lot of little shitters to make this valuable.
Yeah.
It's hard to cast, so the average deck absolutely is not in the business of this.
No, I think you're going to want this in we haven't seen much of the support yet, but the heavy rat token deck.
Yeah.
That's about it. Maybe heavy fairies if you have a lot of little fairies.
Yeah. Anything that'll poop out some tokens. But again, if you're doing that, you're probably not in the business of paying black that early. So rating wise, I'm going to give this a 1, but it certainly will have a deck that it is played in.
Agreed.
All right. Gumdrop Poisoner, 3 mana for a 3/2 with Adventure. And you can pay 1 and create a food because she sprinkles the gumdrops onto the floor. She
She's
herself
tempting.
She is tempting. Tempt with treats is the name.
Exactly.
Cute. Life. She herself has lifelink. When the poisoner enters the battlefield, up to one target creature gets -X/-X, where X is the amount of life you've gained this turn. So on turn 5, you make it on turn 4 or whatever. Turn 5, you crack the food and then give something -3/-3, which I think is pretty good.
Yeah, no, that's solid. I'm not entirely sure what makes this card have lifelink, but sure, why not?
I think it's because in Constructed they're going to stack in multiples, right?
I just felt like a random person dropping poison candy feels a little weird to be gaining life that way.
Well, usually the witches that tempt the kids with candy eat the kids, so they gain life when they eat the kids.
Okay.
So, I don't know. It makes sense. And sugar, you definitely gain energy when you have sugar.
She's giving away the sugar.
Some people eat their own stash, Yanks. Children and very bad drug dealers. Rating-wise, I think this is a pretty solid card. I'm pretty happy with it. I don't think it's like game-ending on its own, but it's going to put in some good work. So I'm a little high on it. It's probably a 3/5, but I want to give it a 4. Because there aren't any, and this seems better than any of the other 3/5s that we've been saying that have been common and uncommon.
Yeah, I think I've got it as a 3/5. I mean, we've seen a few 4s in black already, and this is definitely worse than those removal spells, I think.
Yeah, it has a body. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt.
Fair.
High Fae Negotiator, 5 mana for a 3/5 flyer with bargain. When it enters the battlefield, if it was bargained, each opponent loses 3 and you gain 3. So we see this is just a loss, right? Like this is worse than like the Sanguine Vampire. It was just like a 3/4 for 5 that drained when it ETB'd. You get a little more booty, but you gotta lose a thing to do the bargain. That's stupid. Still good, but it's just worse than that vampire.
Yeah, I guess it depends what depends what you have to sacrifice. But yeah, I think for the most part you're right.
Still playable. I'm still probably playing one of these. I still think a 3/5 flyer for 5 is okay. But I still think it's like a 2/5.
Yeah, I don't think the card's great at all. I like it as a 2/5.
Hopeless Nightmare, 1 mana for an enchantment, enters battlefield. Each opponent discards a card and loses 2 life. When it is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you scry and you can sack it for an additional 3.
Yeah, I mean, just a bargain enabler. We saw one of these in white.
I do love that. You get to play this, get the card from them, and then you bargain it away for value. That's very, very cute in that specific deck.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's bad filler.
Yeah. There are also cards when enchantments enter the graveyard, so if you've got like a couple of those, you might be interested in something like this.
Sure.
But average deck, I'm saying it's, a 1/5.
Yeah, okay, it's a 1/5.
Leyline of the Void, 4 mana. When it enters, if it's in your opening hand, you can start the game with it on the battlefield. If a card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. Not in my starting deck ever. Maybe some really annoying like return decks might want to have this in the sideboard, but I would not be surprised if I never board this in all set.
Yeah, I think it's unlikely. Maybe against like the black-white deck that deals a lot with like that rewards for things dying, so they get exiled instead.
Yeah.
But yeah, unlikely.
And we've seen 2 cards that say when an enchantment enters the battle graveyard, that kind of thing, you exile them instead. So you're mitigating those. Plus they've got 2 return spells. We saw one creature that had the Horseman, had the like return built onto it. So you could just like mitigate all of that. So I would love to pick this up for the sideboard, but I don't think it's necessary.
Agreed. It's not. It's a constructive sideboard card for the most part.
Lich-Knights Conquest, 5 mana for a sorcery. Sacrifice any number of artifacts, enchantments, and or tokens. Return that many creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield.
It's like maybe if they're playing this card.
So this makes us more interested in that 1 mana enchantment, right? Like,
yeah.
Okay, this is cute. And you just upgrade everything. You just upgrade your worst things and turn them into your best things that have already died. Cool.
I'm just in my head now picturing somebody having this card. Like, they look at their hand, they've got Hopeless Nightmare, they've got a bunch of stuff to sacrifice, they're all set up, and then you go turn 0 Leyline of the Void.
Huh.
And they just get really sad.
The other cool thing is this will count double for cards that have like rolls on them, right? Because you sacrifice the roll plus.
Yes.
Oh no. Oh, it doesn't say creatures. It says artifacts, enchantments, or tokens.
Oh, yeah, if it's on, I guess it would only work with the creature token. Yeah.
But yeah, because it doesn't say creature, you have to have some artifact enchantment synergy. And so I guess this is not playable on its own. Some decks are just instant sorceries creatures. This is not going to be a feasible card for you.
Yeah,
and
it
a
really
few stray rolls is not enough.
It really couldn't work with creatures unless it targeted, because otherwise you could just get them all back.
Yeah. It's a cool card, but you do have to have some help. So it is a split rating. Unfortunately, it's going to be a 1 because some decks are just instant sorceries creatures removal, and they aren't going to be wanting to do this. But if you've got some rat tokens, some rolls, I'm pretty happy. I think this will be a cool build around.
Agreed. It's not going to work in some decks, like you said. I do think this is going to be the single biggest rules mistake constantly from this set, is people thinking like this and Bargain can sacrifice creatures.
Yeah.
Because it's always sacrifice creatures.
It'll be fine on Arena.
Yeah.
Rating-wise, again, a split rating. I think this is going to be like a 1 or a 3.
Yeah. I like that.
All right. I'll let you do the next 2.
Next up, we have Lord Skitter's Blessing. 1 and a black for an enchantment. When Lord Skitter's Blessing enters the battlefield, create a Wicked Roll token attached to target creature you control. At the beginning of your draw step, if you control an enchanted creature, you lose a life and draw a card. Okay. All right. I mean, I like the sound of this.
Absolutely.
Draw 2 cards a turn just for having something with a roll on it.
And you have to have a creature on the battlefield when you play it for it to work, but I don't think that's going to be too big of an issue. And then I think I am not interested in this if this is the only sort of role synergy I have. If I have enough other things that will make this, incidentally trigger after they remove its target, then I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it's also cute that it works like if they've cursed one of your creatures.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, for the most part, I want a number of roll generators, which there seem to be fairly plentiful.
I think this is I like it giving a roll is really cute, which is just kind of a nice bonus. Rating wise, 3.
Yeah, I'm thinking to from the last set, from Lord of the Rings set with, was it Call of the Ring, that whenever you chose a creature for tempt, you could pay life to draw a card?
Yeah.
That turned out to be really good.
It did.
And that cost 2 life.
But it re-tempted every time.
Yeah, but you still needed a creature out, just like you need this. So that I think is better than this. But
that one you need a creature out. This one, you don't have a way to, if you play another creature after they remove the first one, this will not reactivate itself like that one did.
True, yeah, that is definitely better.
I don't think it's particularly close. And the Ring Tempt is usually a lot better than I think the Wicked Roll will also be as well.
Yeah, the Ring Tempts did end up being pretty good.
They were very good. And then again, that one just re-triggered itself. They couldn't answer that creature without having infinite removal to your creatures. So I think that one was significantly better.
Yeah. I like this as a 3.
That's what I have
I think. Yeah.
I think the other one is a a 4/4/5.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Oh my god, look at its little chef's hat. Lord Skitters Butcher. 3 mana for a 2/3 rat peasant. When it enters the battlefield, choose 1. Create a 1/1 rat creature token. This creature can't block. You may sacrifice another creature. If you do, scry 2 and draw. Or creatures you control gain menace until end of turn. That is a very flexible 3-drop.
Can we have this image? Can we have this image for Mysterium? Yeah, 3 mana, 2/3 that can do a whole bunch of things. Yeah, what's the worst here? Like, you get a 1. I guess at the worst cases, you just get a 1/1 with it.
Yeah, which is really good fodder for bargain.
Yep, it's 2 permanents for celebration.
I feel like my worst case is always going to be that I want to draw. Like, I'm very rarely, unless I'm ahead or have good use for the 1/1 to where that is much better. I think the default for me will be scry 2 draw.
Yeah, I guess I meant at minimum you can always at least get a 1/1.
Yeah, you can always get the 1/1 and then it, sacks itself.
Yeah, I don't know. I like this at like a 3.
Yeah, it can't sack itself, so I guess that's awkward. I'm gonna give it a 2/5. I don't think any of the things are particularly super strong, but I'm glad that it has very flexible. So I doubt I will ever cut this, but I'm not like, ooh, yay, I have this thing. Lord Skitter Sewer King. What the heck? These are getting weird. 3 mana for a 3/3. Whenever another rat enters the battlefield under your control, exile up to 1 target creature card from an opponent's graveyard. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a black rat that cannot block. So you just get to eat up all their graveyard. That's cool. Great rate. And it makes infinite rats. This is
great.
Cool.
Its rats are like, they eat trash and the grave, so they're eating the graveyard. It's kind of fantastic.
Absolutely. And it's great for bargain. It's good for all sorts of things. I think this card is very good. I think this is like a 4.
It's Rattle Master. I like it. Yeah, I think this card's a 4 as well. Just gonna get an army.
You do get an army. You don't have to attack with them. They don't, they can't block. But it itself is pretty good for on curve for black, and it's going to enable a lot of other synergies, like with your bargain and other things. So I'm happy. All right. We have a Minstrosity. I had to think about how to say that word out loud very well. Minstrosity is a 2 mana 3/1. When it dies, create a food token. Cute. I am fine with this. I think it's a 2, but I'm fine with a 3/1 for 2, and the rats can't block, so that's cool. So I don't have to worry about that. And then making a food, I think, will be very relevant in this deck, in this format.
I understand why they're not, because they're probably couldn't be balanced, but I kind of wish these candy monsters were food. Like the ginger brute was.
Yeah. Well, you have to kill them to eat them, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Although, I feel like eating them is killing them. I don't know. I'm torn.
Chicken and the egg, which comes first?
Necropotence, black, skip your draw step. Whenever you discard a card, exile the card from your graveyard, pay 1, exile a top card of your library face down, put that card into your hand at the beginning of your next end step.
This is one of the few cards in Magic that should never have different artwork. The skull on Necropotence is just too iconic to ever change the art on that card.
Whenever you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard. Okay. I don't know how I feel about this in Limited.
It's not good in Limited, particularly because of the mana cost.
Well, yeah. But you could just pay 5 and get 5 cards on your next turn, which is a lot, right?
Yeah, but you also you never get to draw again other than paying life.
Yes, but late game and in a format where there's food, I don't know. I feel like if you are both hellbent, this feels like a really good draw.
Unless you're at like 4, then it's awful.
Yeah, but like most things are pretty awful when you're hellbent and at 4.
I don't know. I love Necropotence. It's a great card, but I feel like the few sets I've played where it's been unlimited, it rarely sees play.
Yeah, I'm not saying I want to play this, but I'm saying if I'm really heavy in black and I've taken risks on worse cards.
If they would just put, Dark Ritual in the set too, then sure.
Rating wise, I don't think I'm interested in black. That's super situational, but yeah, I'm sure I'm going to play it because I'm stupid. So I'm going to give it a 1-5.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Bring back the skull.
I think that art was fine. Not dead after all. 1 mana for an instant. Until end of turn, target creature you control gains when this creature dies. Return to the battlefield, tapped under your control. Then create a wicked roll attached to it. That's cool. I mean, these are always 23rd playable. I think we could just make this a 2 and move on. They're fine if you have room. If you want rolls, this is great. But cut them if you need cuts.
Yep, agree with all of that.
Oppression. 1 black for an enchantment. Whenever a player casts a spell, that player discards a card. You have to be way ahead to want to cast this.
Yeah, you need to be ahead on board or ahead on cards at least.
Yes. Interesting. I feel like I'm not ever risking this, but
yeah,
this is super awkward.
Yeah, I don't know when. Yeah, it's just tough to figure out how you would build a deck around this in limited.
I was a really big fan of the other enchantment that says like whenever an opponent casts a spell, they have to discard or take 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
I love that card, but this is not that.
Yeah, it's like if you have some sort of like permanent value generating like mana sink.
Yeah.
That would be how you play this card, but yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, not a huge fan. I'm gonna give it a 1. I don't think I'm gonna play it.
Yeah, agreed.
Oversold Cemetery, 2 mana. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 4 or more creature cards in your graveyard, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. That is a lot of value over time.
Yeah, this card is played with it limited before. It's always been very good.
It's a little slow, but I think this is fantastic.
Yeah, it puts the opponent in some very awkward situations where they don't actually want to kill your creature because maybe you can then get a better one back.
Yeah. I'm going to give this a 4. It feels like a game-winning card that, if left alone for a long, any period of time to do its thing, is going to win the game.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. Polluted Bonds. 5 for an enchantment. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, that player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. By the time you're casting this on 5, they could just choose not to play most. Most decks they don't need to get to 8 or whatever. And if they need to play 1 or 2, I don't think this is game breaking. So I'm going to say this is a no for me.
Yeah, it just doesn't do anything, right? Yeah. Like, if this is actually useful because they've been stuck on mana, and you're probably winning the game anyway.
Oh, wasn't there a card that did something for how much life you've gained? Oh, that was just a one-time use creature. Never mind. Yeah, it was a one-time ETB creature, so no.
Yeah.
Rankle's Prank. 4 mana for a sorcery. Choose 1 or more. Each player discards 2 cards. Each player loses 4, or each player sacrifices 2 creatures. I think this is great. The mana cost is Rankle. You could activate all of the abilities. It's like a free hit from Rankle.
Yep.
And I feel like each player sacrifices 2 is going to you just play around it and you get to get them. Feels really cool. each player discards 2. You can just make sure this is your last card that you're playing. I think this is a very solid card.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to find a way to break the symmetry here.
Yeah.
Lose 4 life if you're ahead. The fact that everything is a choice is just great.
Yeah, rating wise, what are you thinking?
I think it's like a 3-5. It's very powerful, but there are going to be times where it's rough. It's like a 7 in Two-Headed Giant.
That's true. Yeah, I like a 3-5. I don't think it's not attached to a body, so it's just not quite there, but it might be. I might actually be a little high. I think I might give it a 3.
Yeah, I always just, I don't know, Rankle, I know it's got a body, but the abilities always seem to find a way to hurt you more than the person who has it.
I agree with that, but this is a one-time thing and not attached to a hasty 3/3 evasive creature.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I mean, Rankle was better than that, to me. But
yeah, Rankle's insane. But
yeah.
This, like, you have to pick, the thing about Rankle is it was doing it every time. So, like, it was hurting you a little more than them, but you got to do it multiple times, which really hurt. Whereas this is like a one-time thing. And there's sometimes where, you might not have a use for any or only one. So I think I am lower. I think I'm going to give it a 3.
Fair.
Rat Out. 1 mana. Up to 1 target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. You create a rat. Okay. So this is
so much.
infection?
It's so much worse. It's so much worse, though.
Fungal infection.
I know, it's so much worse. Because
the rat can't block?
Because you can't shrink a 2/2 and trade with it.
Yes. That is true.
It's still a good card.
Yeah.
But it's not quite as good.
I think with a set with bargain, it's going to mitigate that for me.
That's true. Bargain.
You're right.
Bargain
You can't
does
trick a 2/2, but you also can bargain this away and do something really crazy in the following turns. So.
Yeah, it's still a good card.
So rating wise, I'm going to give this a 3.
Yeah, I've got it as a 3 as well.
You don't want them in mass multiples, but you definitely want one of them.
Agreed.
Rowan's Grim Search. 3 mana for an instant with bargain. If the spell is bargain, look at the top 4 cards of your library, then put 2 of them back on top of your library in any order, and the rest into your graveyard. And then you draw 2 cards and lose 2 life. Okay.
Yeah, that feels like such an awkward way to word that, but I guess it has to be worded that way.
Yeah. So we normally see this, right? 3 mana, draw 2, gain 2, or draw 2, lose 2, and then if you want to bargain, you can dig a little deeper. I think that's fine. I think this is okay for black. I'm going to give this a 3.
Yeah, I like it as 3 as well.
Instant speed draw for black is really cute.
Agreed.
Sanguine Bond. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. I need this card for Commander. I really hope I open it today.
Yeah.
I'm going to open it today.
Every other format, it's a 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's not very good. With food, it's pretty cute. I'm going to say this is playable in exactly Golgari. I'm going to give it a 1, and then I'm going to give it like... We saw multiple lifelink creatures already. We got food. We got drain cards. I'm here for it. I'm going to give it a 3. In Golgari only.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 1, and then in Golgari, it's like a 1.1.
You are no fun. I get cookies if I kill someone with Sanguine Bond. A Scream Puff. Yes! 5 mana for a 4/5 Death Touch Horror. Whenever Scream Puff deals combat damage to a player, create a food. Every turn, Sanguine Bond is going to hit them for 3. It's going to be great.
If you're getting hit for 4 every turn already, you're probably already in trouble.
But now they're getting hit for more. 7! Oh, man. Okay. Scream Puff is a fantastic name. Super excited.
It is, and it looks just about as tasty as real cream puffs do.
And 4/5 with Death Touch, though I don't usually care about Death Touch on my large creature, it does make double blocking this real awkward, because a lot of times you just get bricked by 2 3/3s, whereas this is like, okay, solid 2 for 1. Fine. And also, if you get to make foods, all the better. I think this is a solid 3. I'm interested in making foods to enable a lot of my other stuff.
Yeah, I've got it as a 3 as well. Especially because the more of these you have, the less spots in your deck for things like Sanguine Bond.
I'm playing Sanguine Bond. Shut it. Don't ruin my fun. Shatter the Oath. That's a lot of work. Oh, it's not too bad, actually. 5 mana for destroy target creature or enchantment. Create a wicked roll attached to up to 1 target creature you control. Sorcery speed. It's one of the slow ones. I think I'll still play these, but it's like a 3.
Yeah, the hitting enchantments is nice flexibility, but it's probably not going to be something you're going to want to pay 5 mana for very often.
Yep. It's just slow. Sorcery speed, yucky. Specter of Mortality, 5 mana for a 3/3 flying Specter. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile 1 or more creatures from your graveyard. When you do, each other creature gets -X, where X is the number of cards exiled this way. What? So you just exile 4 things. Each other creature, so you just like you just languish?
Yeah, and you keep your 3/3.
Huh. Ain't that... Oh my god, that's gonna be... I'm gonna tilt so hard when I die to this card. I don't want to die to this card, but I'm gonna. No!
Yeah, this card's really good.
Oh man, it is very good. It's a rare? Well, don't act like you don't die to rares in Limited. Come on. Rating wise, I do think this is very, very good. It can win the game if, in the right spot, if you're getting any value out of this. I'm going to give it a 4.
Oh, I'm so tempted to give you even higher on this because you get, so often you'll get the value no matter, even if they can get rid of it.
Yes, but I feel like so often it'll also just like kill a rat and do nothing else kind of thing. So I just kind of average that together. I do think it can just land and be a 5, but I also think it could just land and be a 3/3 flyer.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it a 4.5. I tend to give a little more value to cards that can actually flip the board state from when you're behind, which is just not something a lot of cards can do.
Fair enough. Spiteful Hexmage, 1 mana for a 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, create a cursed roll token attached to target creature you control. That's not a bad thing with Bargain in this set. Like, that's just a good thing. It stops you from curving out and punishing them insanely hard, but like you just bargain something on turn 2 or 3 and you just win. This card seems great.
I mean, what the worst case is it's on 1/1 for 1, which is okay, not exciting, but it's not the worst thing in the world. And eventually, you should be able to get rid of that token either by creating another roll, to get rid of it, or bargaining it away.
Now, if I don't have bargains, I'm pretty sad and I'm not interested in playing this. But I feel like most black decks, there seems to be plenty of bargain in the format, so I'm happy to run this. I think this is a 2/5. It's a great enabler.
I think I've got it as a 3. I think just because we've seen so many things in black that are just like making wicked rolls. That alone can quickly turn this into a 4/3.
Yeah, if you're changing the role, I'm putting it in just about any deck. But yeah, if you have an increased amount of synergy where you can add rolls or bargain things off with consistency, I do think it's going to be a much higher.
Yeah. Stab
Wound. Man, this is a weird art change because everybody was super high on the original Stab Wound because that girl was so hot. The internet lost their shit for like a week when that card was spoiled.
I have to look that up because I do not even remember that art.
3 mana for an enchant or target creature gets -2/-2 at the beginning of your upkeep. At the beginning of the upkeep of the enchanted controller, that player loses 2 life. Yeah, I mean, this was fine. It a lot of times just killed the thing, and if it doesn't, it just drains them out slowly and makes their card kind of useless. You just put it on a 2/3, and then they're just kind of wrecked, and then they're on a clock.
It's even better when it doesn't kill the creature a lot of times.
Yeah. So rating-wise, I think it's okay. You're going to be playing these in moderation, so I think the first one's probably a solid... I'll give it a 3. It's a little high, I think.
I've got it as a 3.
it never played quite in the previous set. It didn't play as high as I wanted it to. So like I'm a little hesitant just because sometimes I needed more or I needed it to die. It had an ability or whatever and I just couldn't get there. But sometimes you just drain them out.
Yep.
Stingblade Assassin. We have a 4-mana 3/1 flyer with flash. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target creature an opponent controls that was dealt damage this turn. Oh, I love these. And it's a dope flying card. This card is awesome.
Yeah, so often we just don't have these on cards that do a whole lot after they come into play, but an evasive attacker is great.
And it's just a common, so I get to attack with all my rats and just be like, call my bluff. Call it. And I'm gonna take so much rat damage just playing around this fucker. They just don't have it in their deck. I'm gonna let every single rat just smack me in the face over and over again. They're gonna get like 6 damage on me before I decide to block.
And then they'll have it at that point, and you'll have taken 6 and gotten beaten by it.
Wow, yeah, that's cute. I think this card is really good. It's just a 3-power flash flyer for 4, which is, very solid. So rating wise, I don't know. I like these cards. I want to give it a 3/5, but it seems a little high.
Yeah, I think I have it as a 3.
Yeah. Usually this ability is not attached to such a valuable creature. Like it's like a 3/2 or like a 1/3 or like not a 3-power flyer.
Yeah.
So I want to bump it up. So I don't know. I'm going to give it a 3/5 just because I'm really greedy.
Sure.
Sugar Rush. 2 mana for an instant. Target creature gets +3/+0 until end of turn and you draw. I think that's a very flavorful Sugar Rush ability. I like that.
Yeah. Not sure I like the card too much. I mean, I guess it replaces itself, so it's always fine, but it, +3/+0, I guess what you're hoping for is letting it trade up and getting 2 for 2 kind of.
Or you just connect with your lifelinker and Sanguine Bond hits them for 6, essentially.
Yeah, and that gets you back the card you wasted on Sanguine Bond.
No, I hit them, I drain them, and I win the game. See, Yanks. Rating-wise, I don't like this card. I think it's like 1.5. It's fine if you have, if you are short on playables. It's an okay card.
Agreed. I got it at 1.5 as well.
Maybe if you have a lot of rats and you just want your rats to be tricky.
Yeah, if you're getting to trade up for a real card, for a token and getting your card back.
Sweet Tooth Witch, 3 mana for a 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, create a food token. You can pay 2, sacrifice a food. Target player loses 2 life. Okay. But why would I do that when I can pay the 2 to eat the food and Sanguine Bond will make them lose 3 life? So that just doesn't make any sense. I feel like that last part's completely irrelevant to what I'm doing. Rating-wise, I think this is fine. It makes a food, enables itself, and if you have good food synergy on the rest of your deck, then it's really nice to just be able to sack 4 food, make them take 8, and win the game.
Yeah, this is the sort of card when it gets played, as an opponent, you're thinking, do I need to just kill this thing?
Yeah.
Is this just going to kill me eventually? Or
there was a tricky card like this in the first Eldraine where it was well, this isn't going to kill me now, but it will eventually. There was a witch that did something similar.
Tempting witch, I think.
Something like that. And it was definitely, I lost a lot of games to it, so it's sort of, the inevitability thing.
2 tap, sack a food, target player loses 3 life.
Yeah.
So it made a food. Yeah.
This will be similar in that it will end long games. Rating-wise, if you have the food, it's going to be up, but if you don't, it's just going to be a 2 for me.
Yeah, I think it's a 2, but it's a finisher that can, provide reach to a black-green deck.
Yes, certainly. It'll play, I'm happy to have it as a 3 if you've got some food synergies, but I didn't see food in white or blue, really. So it is very specific, whereas a lot of the other archetypes can sort of bleed into other color pairings. I don't think food's going to be able to. Taken by Nightmares, 4 mana, exile target creature. If you control an enchantment, scry 2. This is great. 4.
Yeah. 4.
Instant speed 4 exile. Yeah.
Yeah.
They just added a scry because of the power creep.
And there's a lot of enchantments in this set.
Yeah. Tangled Colony. 2 mana for a 2/3 rat. It can't block. When it dies, create X 1/1 black rats, where X is the amount of damage dealt to it this turn. So when they have to block it. So you just get like essentially 2 1/1 rats when it replaces itself. It's a very aggressive card.
I feel like this card, like the art, it should not be able to attack because like their tails are all tangled together, so it's stuck.
So it's just like a defender rat.
I mean, I know that doesn't make sense, but that's what it looks like in the art.
And then when it takes a hit, then they all get untangled and they attack you, I guess. I don't know. Rating wise, I think it's just an aggressive card. I mean, I'm probably not cutting this very often, but I'm not like, ooh, yay, let's go.
Yeah.
So I think it's like a 2/5.
Yeah, I've got it as a 2/5 as well.
Uneventful for a rare. Twisted Sewer Witch, 5 mana for a 3/4 human warlock. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 rat creature token that can't block. Then for each rat you control, create a wicked roll attached to that rat. Okay. Now we're talking. This is Queen of the Rats. I like that. She's a sewer witch. I think that's so cool. Love the flavor.
Okay, I read that card completely wrong at first. I thought it was attaching all the tokens to one rat.
No. So it just gives them all a thing, which is cool.
Which actually, I thought that kind of made sense at first, because the Wicked runs, then most of them go to the graveyard and they all drain for a bunch.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, that makes way more sense. Yeah, this card, it turns all your 1/1s to 2/2s. That die and make them lose a life when they die.
And the worst case scenario is it is a 3/4 with a 2/2 as well for 5 mana, which is not bad. So I think it only has up ceiling from there if you have any rat synergies. So I'm fine with this card. I think it's like 3.
Yeah, it's two separate things for bargain that you're happy to sacrifice too, like the roll and the 1/1.
All right, Vampiric Rites, 1 mana. That's true, it might be better. 1 mana for an enchantment, pay 2, sacrifice a creature, you gain a life and draw a card. And every time you gain a life, you'll drain. Your opponent will take damage from Sanguine Bond. This is cool in a rat deck, but probably nothing else.
Yeah, I agree. I like this effect. Like sack creature, gain a life, even just gain a life was great in Theros Beyond Death on Lampad, but that was because it was on a body.
Yeah. You have to have rats. This is good, like, anti-removal. So, like, you can sack your premium stuff and just 1-for-0 them, basically, which is really nice. And then you just sack rats for more value. So I think there will be a deck that wants this, but it's not the average deck. So for me, it's like a 1.5.
Yeah, I think it's also a card to keep in mind to sideboard in against decks with a lot of removal.
Yeah.
Single target stuff. It's a cheap way to make their life very uncomfortable.
I like that.
Great with Bitter Blossom.
Oh, yeah. Moving on to Virtue of Presence, 7 mana for an enchantment that is also an adventure. At sorcery speed, target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. You gain 2 life. They'll take 2 from Sanguine Bond. And then you can, for 7 mana, you can cast it at the beginning of your upkeep. Put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Huh? A graveyard? A graveyard.
So,
yep.
I want to say this is a 5, not just because that ability is powerful; it's very expensive. But I mean, just the 2 mana -3/-3 gain 2 life is great.
Even though it's sorcery speed, that's fantastic. Like I would rate that alone. Like like what?
At least a 3/5, if not
at
a 4.
least a 3/5. It feels, it's a little like tiny creatures, but it's pretty dang close to a 4. If it was, I think it was an instant, it would definitely be a 4.
And you play this on turn 2, and it changes the way your opponents have to play the rest of the game. Because they see this coming. And that it just kind of alters the nature of the game.
And it says a graveyard. Blech. They can't even exile your graveyard or do anything crazy. This card's a 5.
Yeah, I think this is a 5.
Maybe it's a 4 or 5. Well, no. I was gonna say, so the reason I don't usually give things a 5 is because if it's removed before it gets a chance to do its thing on your upkeep, then it hasn't impacted the board and you just lost a card. But because of the removal side of it, it kind of did, right? Like, you got the value from it already, and then they removed it, so it's already a 2-for-1 in that scenario. So I think this is just a 5.
The card is really the other way around, right? It's really a 2-mana removal spell with this stapled onto it.
Yeah.
That makes it great top deck late and an empty board. Where, yeah, removal spell's nice to have, but, I mean, this is better.
I mean, I'm probably still happy to just wait and do both.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of nuts.
Yeah. And so far, the set, I mean, we haven't seen green, but the set hasn't been super tall in general, so I think this is fantastic. Yeah. Rating-wise, it's a 5.
Yep.
All right. Voracious Vermin. 3 mana for a 2/1 rat. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 rat. Okay, so it's at least 2. Whenever another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on this. It doesn't say another rat, so that's nice. So you just run 1 rat under the bus, and this becomes a 3 mana 3/2. Not great, but it will still continue to get bigger over time. I think that's good.
Yeah, it doesn't say rat, doesn't say non-token creature. So you can sacrifice tokens to bargain. You can you said run a rat swarm into the red zone and get a few damage in and get like 3 or 4 counters.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of good value here.
Absolutely. I am very happy to play that. That said, it's not super impactful right away. It's a little below rate on its own the turn it comes into play, so it's not great, but it's certainly playable. I think it's a 2.
Yeah, I've got it as a 2. It'll play up in certain decks, but I think I've got it as a 2 on average.
I agree with that. All right. Warehouse Tabby. Oh, it murdered it, though. Oh, but it's about to get murdered.
Oh, yeah.
This is like the uncard, the Attack of the Fluffy Bunnies.
Yep.
At first I saw it, and I was like, that poor mouse. And I was like, oh, that poor cat. All right. So it's a 1 mana 1/1 whenever an enchantment you control is put into a graveyard. We've seen like 3 or 4 of that in this color. Very relevant. From the battlefield, create a 1/1 rat creature token. This creature can't block. Pay 2. It gains this tabby gains death touch till end of turn. I'm confused. Why does the cat make rats? I feel like she should eat rats.
Yeah, the art in this card seems to be all over the place. Like, why is the cat making rats? This cat doesn't look like it's about to have death touch and kill some things. It looks like it's about to die.
Yeah.
Like,
the art does not quite match what the flavor of the card is trying to do, but I'm here for it. I think this card is good. I'm fine with a 1/1 that you activate to get death touch, and then I'm fine with pooping out some extra rats. This is good synergy. The fact that it poops out rats that you could sacrifice, for other bargain, and then your bargain works really well with the enchantments ETBing, or dying. I think it's good. Probably a 2/5.
Yeah, I like this as a 2/5. I always like the cheap death touchers, even if they have an activation cost.
It'll play down if you don't have any synergy, but I'm kind of just expecting that this is a very synergistic color, so you'll have some.
Yeah.
Waste Not. 2 mana for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent discards a creature card, create a 2/2 black creature token. I'm sad I just bought this card because I needed it for EDH, and this one's better. Whenever an opponent discards a land card, make 2 black mana. Whenever an opponent discards a non-creature, non-land card, draw a card. Not a limited card. I'm going to give it a 1.
Agreed. There's just not enough discard.
Wicked Visitor, 2 mana for a Nightmare 2/2. Whenever an enchantment you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. Nice. So it's just a bear with like that long synergistic grind, which I'm here for. This is like a 2/5 for me.
Yeah, this is what Orzhov is want to be doing. Just sort of slowly drain them out.
I mean, it's a little low impact, so like it's an easy cut, but from what I'm seeing in black, this is exactly what I want my 2 drops to be doing.
Yeah, you always need 2 drops 2 power and with a good ability, that's fine.
Wow, chat saying 1.5 or 1. I mean, I agree in like black, green or something. But I think that from what we're seeing from black, this is going to be good reach. And I don't expect my 2-drops to do much more than this. Because it's just a 2-drop. It's a common. Like most of the time, these are, 2/1s with very sad abilities that don't have this kind of reach.
I mean, there are only 3 black 2-drops.
I think chat might have been talking about the Waste Knot. It was just like a delayed thing. Okay, cool. I was like, you guys really hate bears with abilities? What? I was super confused. All right, we're on the same page now. I agree with the Waste Knot being a 1 or a 1/5.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, so this is like a 2 in any deck, a 2/5 in anything that's like real black. God, these colors won't end. I keep thinking we're at the end.
I think this is the last one.
Witch's Vanity is a saga. Chapter 1, destroy target creature an opponent controls with mana value 2 or less. May or may not hit. Chapter 3, create a food token. And Chapter 4, create a wicked roll attached to target creature you control. This is good value for only 2 mana at uncommon. So I think this is not a thing I'm cutting. I'm going to say this is a 3.
Yeah, I think this is a 3 as well. I'm hesitating for a second because I'm looking up a rule on Saga to see if there. I don't believe you can, but if there's a way to get if you can get all 3 abilities and then sacrifice this at instant speed, I don't believe so.
Yeah, someone in chat saying this is very much like the Life of Toshiro, and I agree. I feel like Toshiro might have been better, but this has the same energy, same vibe. I think this will be very good.
Yeah.
2 mana seems well costed, so 3.5. The reason I'm hesitant to take it up to 3.5 is because if any one of these rolls doesn't trigger, like they're pretty situational. Like the Toshiro, you could just gain life on chapter 1, right? You still get something. If they don't have a 2-powered thing, then irrelevant. If you have no food synergy, then 3 life, what is that really doing for you? Maybe you can bargain it away, but in general. So I don't like any one of these abilities as much as I liked the other one. Are you done with your rules check?
I'm still trying to figure it out. I probably won't by the end of this.
Fair enough. Well, that's the last card, guys. So thank you very, very much for checking out our Wilds of Eldrain Black Limited Set review. Big thanks to our chat helping us out with our ratings and questions. Yanks, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I just found the answer to the rules question.
All right, what is it?
So once the number of lore counters on a saga is greater than or equal to the greatest number among its chapters, so 3 in this case, the controller sacrifices as soon as its chapter ability has left the stack. So the ability will go on the stack. You will still have time to instant speed bargain it away.
Huh. So you put the ability on the stack and then you bargain it.
Yeah, you put the ability on the stack. If you're not bargaining it, what happens is you put an ability on the stack, the ability resolves, and then as soon as the ability resolves, it gets sacrificed to state-based actions. But they can't check for state-based actions until that ability is resolved.
Gotcha. So you just need to bargain it before it resolves. Great.
Yes.
That's a really cute rule, actually. I wish we had put that in the introduction to...
It did not occur to me until right now, because I was thinking this one gives you 1, 2... How many things does it give you to sacrifice? And I was forgetting that it could include itself.
Yeah, that's really cute. All right, guys, thank you again for watching. Leave us a comment down below. Let me know what you think of not just Black, but Wilds of Eldrain as a whole. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.